Transition. I'm having technical difficulties tonight, and it is pissing me off. Good evening, everybody. I am Josh Beard, Wasted Talent with Josh Beard, as per the usual. Well, I mean, not really the usual, because I'm not on a set schedule because I keep traveling all over the place. But I'm back after being gone for another week, and it's perfect timing because the Texans had their first preseason game tonight, and so I thought it'd be perfect if I waited until after the Texans had their game to come on and not just talk about some of the stuff that I already wanted to talk about, but talk about the Texans' first preseason action. And we'll dive into that in a minute. Really, honestly, you can't gain much from the preseason, right? There's not much from preseason football from the starting unit standpoint to get. It's not like we're going to see Deshaun Watson go out and go full bore in the preseason. It's not like we're going to see DeAndre Hopkins. J.J. Watt was obviously in shorts and a shirt. So, there's not a whole lot that we can gather from that. But the one thing I will say, the one thing that has me extremely concerned after watching that preseason game is this Texans offensive line. So we're going to dive into that a little bit more in just a minute. What's going on, Tay? Y'all comment on YouTube, comment on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're watching this. Comment, join the conversation, and we'll talk about some stuff. But we definitely got a lot of Texans stuff to dive into, and a lot of things to get to because I'm torn, right? I'm torn on what to think about this Texans team going into the season. When I had Sean Bajani on a few weeks ago, I said this is going to be an 8-8 team, 9-7 at best. It's not just the fact that the team is poorly run, that I don't think that the offense is super. The offense is really predictable. I mean, we saw it last year. We've seen it the last few years with Bill O'Brien. He's an incredibly predictable play caller. And I know it's just the first preseason game, but you saw some of that tonight where everything that he called was incredibly predictable. And so I have my issues with a lot of the things about this team, but there's still a lot of talent. There's still a lot of talent on this team as a whole and in general, and so it's hard for me to just sit there and say that the team's going to be crap. I know there's some people that are saying that they're going to be 5-10. There's some people saying they're only going to get 2 wins all season. I'm not one of those people. There's still a lot of talent on this roster that on the offensive side and on the defensive side that's going to keep this team competitive. But the problem is the talent on this team is going to keep the team competitive while the scheme and the coaching is going to bring them down, and it's just they're going to stay in purgatory. I'd rather them be really, really bad and get high draft picks, although they don't treat them that well whenever they do get them, or be really good, obviously, and win. But sitting at that 8-8, that 9-7, sitting in NFL purgatory, I'm not super excited about that. And so I'm not as low as people are. What's going on, Pablo? I just saw that Pablo said, yo. I'm not as low as other people are on the Texans, but I'm not super high on them. And a lot of it has to do with what I saw from the preseason game tonight, man. This offensive line has been a concern. This offensive line has been a concern all throughout last season when we had just Julian Davenport jumping off sides left and right. And we've heard from multiple ex-offensive linemen that a lot of that with Julian Davenport, a lot of the jumping off sides and the false starts from other offensive linemen, a lot of that was on Nick Martin. I think I've heard Wade Smith say that. I've heard a couple other guys say that, where a lot of that is Nick Martin just not being good at what he does. But look, you try to sell us on Titus Howard being this guy that was going to immediately move into the left guard spot, and that's perfect. It's where he needs to be. The left guard is perfect for him, even though we drafted him as a left tackle in the first round and used a first-round pick. And when we needed to shore up the left tackle spot, we used it on him. But he's a great left guard. You know what? I saw tonight, he got eaten up. He got wrecked. Titus Howard did not look good. And all we've heard is how he's just beating up on guys in camp and how he's eating everything in camp and tearing up defensive lines. And he just didn't look good. Guys were getting past him left and right. And so the one thing, if there's one takeaway that I'll have from a preseason game, as much as you can have takeaways from a preseason game, it's that Titus Howard's not a very good offensive lineman. That's it. I know he's young. It's his first sense of action, but right now it's not good. I wanted them to go out and draft a guy who they could plug into the offensive line, and he immediately makes a difference. There's obviously growing pains. You have to grow into that role. But are you sitting there telling me that Andre Dillard would have gotten beat play after play after play the way Titus Howard did? For me, the best offensive lineman, one of the best offensive linemen tonight was Max Sharping. I thought Max Sharping looked really good, playing that right guard spot, the other rookie that they took in the third round. And whenever they first drafted him, I told everybody Max Sharping is the guy I'm going to keep my eye on, probably more than anybody else, because of the things that he was saying whenever he got drafted, the things that he talked about. After being drafted, whenever he's talking to the Texans and Texans radio and Texans media, he was saying stuff like, they asked him questions like, why do you like football? What's your favorite thing about football? And he was saying things like, I just love moving other guys where they don't want to go. That's the kind of shit that I want from my offensive linemen. That's the kind of stuff I want to hear from my football players. But I don't want to sit here and just listen to lip service about a guy who's got great footwork and he used to play quarterback and he's super athletic. But you got to show me. You got to show me anger. You got to show me aggression. You got to show me that you're good at that. I don't give a crap about your footwork and your athleticism and then another position that you played. But we saw just how raw Titus Howard really is. But the problem that I have with this is we didn't see how raw he is at the left tackle spot. We saw how raw Titus Howard is at the left guard spot. And that's where I have my biggest issue, because people are trying to sell us that, Titus Howard is going to be this awesome left guard. He's going to be a starting left guard for this team. And they're trying to sell us on this because they know that they screwed up in taking him as a left tackle in the first round. It's not a waste of a pick because maybe he can still become a left tackle, obviously. But it's not looking good. And so they try to sell us on this Titus Howard's going to be a left guard bullshit, and then he gets torn apart in the first preseason game. He was getting beat by second unit guys by the Green Bay Packers. And look, it's not like the Green Bay Packers have some stalwart defense. It's not like Titus Howard is going against all-pro and Pro Bowl players. He's going against the Green Bay Packers have a less than mediocre defense, and he was getting beat by guys on the second unit on that less than mediocre defense. That's a problem. That's a concern for me. But you know what? I'll just leave it at this. It wasn't even just him. The offensive line as a whole looked terrible. Joe Webb was running for his life almost the entire night. Deshaun Watson's gonna die. We should just have a funeral. On my next show on Tuesday, I'll invite a bunch of guests, and we're just gonna have a wake for Deshaun Watson. Just like a preemptive wake, because I don't have a lot of time on my hands, so I have to get it out of the way as soon as possible. So if you guys that are watching this, if you guys that are checking this out, y'all want to be a part of Deshaun Watson's wake next Tuesday, we're going to do that. We're going to do Deshaun Watson's wake because behind this offensive line, he's going to die. I mean, we're legitimately talking about a franchise quarterback with an injury history who needs to stay upright, and he has an offensive line that can't protect him for anything. They needed to shore up the left tackle spot. They didn't. Bill O'Brien's number one priority this week after watching that shit is go get Trent Williams. Honestly, at this point, I don't care what it takes. Go get Trent Williams because you need to protect him. You need to protect Deshaun Watson. But my biggest issue is Trent Williams enough? Is just one guy, is that enough to protect Deshaun Watson? Because Chantrell Henderson didn't look particularly great. Max Sharping had his moments, but even he got beat a bunch. And so, look, I love the talent that this offense has. You got Deshaun Watson, you got DeAndre Hopkins. Do not worry, we'll get to Kiki QT in just a second. I absolutely love the addition of Duke Johnson. I'll dive into that real fast. I love the talent of the offense, but the most important unit on your offense is probably going to be the worst in the league. Like, the Texans offensive line from 2 seasons ago made a slight improvement last season. Not much, not a great one, but an ever so slight improvement. But now they're going to fall back even farther. I would not be surprised. In fact, I'm calling it right now. The Texans offensive line is going to hands down be the worst offensive line in the entire NFL at season's end. I don't care by what metric. I don't care if it's Pro Football Focus. I don't care if it's Pro Football Talk. I don't care if it's Jimmy that lives down the street from you. I don't give a shit. Like, everybody is going to definitively know, oh my God, yeah, that Texans offensive line, yeah, that's the worst in the league. By every measure and every metric, they are going to be the worst. I love everything else on the offense. The problem is all of the other things on the offense, they don't work if there's no offensive line. So you can have as talented of a quarterback as you want. You can have the best wide receiver in the league. Will Fuller could have an entire healthy season. But if they don't have an offensive line to block for them, it doesn't mean shit. But at least they shored up. At least they shored up the running back spot a little bit more. And I want to dive into this some because I have two competing emotions with this. Because I love the trade for Duke Johnson. Yeah, I know. Why Citizens? I can't believe he had Kiki QT returning punts. I can't either. It's a fucking preseason game. Look, I get it, man. You want to get the guy live reps. But we're talking about it. You're on a terrible field in a meaningless game. And you've got the dude who was injured last year and dealt with injuries returning fucking punts? In preseason game number 1, when everybody knows he's going to be an integral part in what you're going to try to do in the passing game? Like, it's little stuff like that kills me with Bill O'Brien. That's such a great point. Thank you so much, Wise Citizens. It's little stuff like that with Bill O'Brien where it's like, I understand wanting to get the guy reps, but do that in practice, in non-contact practice, in a controlled environment where the field isn't terrible and you know that except for maybe in some freak happenstance that Kiki Cutie's not going to get hurt. I haven't seen the extent of the injury. And honestly, I am like trying to run this, like produce this show while talk, and then trying to look up the Kiki QT injury is too much for me. So if one of you guys knows, if anybody knows an update on Kiki QT's injury, please let me know. But it's the little decisions like that by Bill O'Brien that make you think, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Why do you do shit like that? It's dumb little calls that he makes that he thinks it's going to be good in the end, but it ends up biting him in the ass every single time. And the Kiki QT injury was the most predictable thing in the world. Not saying that Kiki QT, somebody on Twitter said, he's not injured. That wasn't his fault. It wasn't his hamstring. He's not injury prone. I'm not saying Kiki QT is injury prone. I'm saying that an injury happening to a player that matters in the first preseason game is the most predictable thing that can happen with the Texans. Easily. I mean, people were joking around about it on Twitter before the game even started. My buddy Mike Kearns, at Zep1978 on Twitter, said, watch, Will Fuller and Kiki QT are gonna end up lame ducks tonight. And look what happened. Kiki QT ended up a lame duck. It's asinine how many little shitty decisions Bill O'Brien makes. Yeah, I think it was an ankle injury. The way, like, I don't know how severe though. That's what I haven't seen an update on the severity of it, but I mean the way he got tackled and the way he got pulled down and all of his leg bent behind him and all of his weight went on that ankle, it didn't look good. And it might be just like an ankle sprain, but I can tell you like a severe ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain, which I've had like a bajillion of those because for some reason at 33, they said not serious, that's good. But even a not serious ankle sprain or ankle injury, it's still, he's not going to be right for a few weeks. But why even risk it? Why even have him out there? It's fucking punt returns. There's no reason for it. And now, so like if something happens with Kiki QT, let's say that ankle sprain does linger for a while. That's why it's super important that they got Duke Johnson today. And I understand that if he plays in 10 games, then it becomes a third-round pick. I think that's a good swap. I really do. I swap in a 2020 third-round pick for Duke Johnson, I think that's a swap that I'll take, because Duke Johnson, although he disappoints every single year in fantasy, which I can't wait to start doing like fantasy episodes of my show. But although Duke Johnson disappoints every single year in fantasy, when it comes to being a backup running back in the NFL, especially from a passing perspective, which everybody's talked about ad nauseum today, he's actually really effective. Like, if you look at him, his average for yards per reception the last 3 years, I believe, is like 9.5, which is really, really good, or 9.4. So, like, he's averaging, in 2017, he had 74 receptions for 693 yards. And so we don't need him running a ton of yards, but to be that, like, especially if an injury happens to Will Fuller or to Kiki QT, to have him as that receiving threat out of the backfield, I love that. Yeah, the great point. We do, like, the Texans cut all their third-round picks anyway. We might as well trade it. That's such a great point. So what Duke Johnson can bring out of the backfield, I'm super excited about that. Put that with Lamar Miller, and they could have a really good 1-2 punch. I know, like, I keep hearing stuff about Alfred Blue. Jesus Christ, please don't. I think Demario Crockett, even though he didn't play a lot tonight, I thought he showed some stuff that I really liked. He showed a little bit of wiggle. So did Karan Higdon. I know, what was it? Demario Crockett had six carries for 24 yards, but he had some pop, and he had one good 12-yard run that I really liked. And Karan Higdon had a really good play on special teams. And then he had eight carries for 37 yards. And Karan Higdon's a guy that can help out of the backfield too, which is intriguing. But the offense, for the most part, the players themselves, they looked okay. Just okay. Tyron Johnson had a couple of catches that were just, he's going to be special. That's why if Will Fuller goes down or Kiki QT goes down, I'm not super, super worried with especially bringing in Duke Johnson the way they did today, and then Tyron Johnson, which I was talking, Pat D Stat. I talked to him a lot whenever I was still at 6'10", and we were checking out rookie minicamp. We literally sat there salivating for 45 minutes straight at the first rookie minicamp over Tyron Johnson, and just the way he moves, his speed. It's incredible thinking about what he can do from the wide receiver spot. So I'm not, but it's still a rookie, right? You don't want to rely that much on a rookie wide receiver, but the way he's been performing makes you feel pretty good about what he can do. But Joe Webb, dude, let's talk about Joe Webb real fast. What a freaking game. He shouldn't have to escape sacks that much, but he looked good. 286 yards, a touchdown. He threw a couple interceptions, but whatever. He's the backup. But, like, if A.J. McCarron wasn't hurt, like, say A.J. McCarron dealing with thumb issues, he comes back, do you start him over, or do you put him in that backup quarterback spot behind Joe Webb, or in front of Joe Webb? Because Joe Webb, I mean, he had over 300 yards of total offense. I feel like that's pretty damn good. And he wiggled himself out of a couple that, what was that 4th and 12? And I think that 4th and 12 ended up getting called back, but there was a 4th and 6. Like, there were some 4th and longs that he wiggled out of and ended up getting the first downs. I didn't think he would. He shouldn't have been running around in the first place, because he should have had an offensive line that could actually block for him. But I thought Joe Webb looked good. And so they've got the pieces there, right? It's just preseason game 1. It's not time to panic. It's not time to freak out, unless we're talking about the offensive line. I'm not gonna lie. I'm fully panicked about the offensive line, and maybe that's just like I've told people a bajillion times since I started in this industry that I am a victim of the moment. I am a what have you done for me lately? That's why it seems like I'm full on board the Texans bandwagon, and I'm sipping all the Bill O'Brien Kool-Aid, and then I'm super cold on them, and I think they're going to be terrible. That's why I'm hot and cold all the time, because I overreact in the moment, and it's all about what have you done lately. And I've seen this offensive line for the last 2 years, and then watching it in this preseason game, I am not excited about them at all. I am incredibly worried. And the Texans are to me, the Texans are a train wreck already. I don't know how anyone can look at the teams I don't know how anyone can look at the moves that this team has made this offseason and continue to explain it all away as, well, Bill O'Brien's just a tough customer. This franchise has really no direction and no leadership. And I know people are going to see this, and they're going to say, well, look, he made a move for Duke Johnson today. Oh, God, don't worry. He got Duke Johnson. Bill O'Brien, Cal McNair, and this conglomerate GM made a move for Duke Johnson. Well, that's a move that the team should have made months ago. And I totally understand if you want to put the blame on Brian Gaine. They could have traded for a Duke Johnson. They could have gotten a Tevin Coleman. There's a multitude of other running backs that they could have traded for, signed, or drafted. And if you want to put the blame on Brian Gaine, that's completely fine. But I'm not okay sitting through an entire season saying, well, this is a totally different franchise now that Bill O'Brien and Cal McNair are running the show. Because it's not. It's a mess. D'Onta Foreman never should have been a guy that they were relying on as the second back. A guy who had a couple of flash moments before he got injured, but for the most part had no track record in the NFL, and then was coming off of an Achilles injury. The fact that Cal McNair didn't push for a running back, the fact that Bill O'Brien, who has worked with GMs before to get guys on his team, don't forget that. Bill O'Brien has gotten his guys on teams before, and the Texans propaganda machine would have you believe that, well, Brian Gaine didn't make these moves. Now that Bill O'Brien's in charge, he's free to do this. If Bill O'Brien really wanted to make those moves, and he really wanted to bring a running back in, do you really think that Bill O'Brien would have sat back and been like, oh, yes, Mr. Gaine. Yes, absolutely. I agree. We don't need a running back. We'll be completely fine with D'Onta Foreman. If Bill O'Brien wanted another running back, he was going to get another fucking running back. And so I'm not buying this, well, it's Brian Gaine's fault because he didn't do it. I'm not fully buying it. It might be partially his fault, but it's not all his fault. It's not all his fault that they drafted Titus Howard. It's not all his fault that they didn't shore up the offensive line. He definitely should take ownership, but don't sit there and tell me that an offensive-minded coach in Bill O'Brien, when for predominantly in the NFL, offensive-minded coaches have the power even on teams that have real GMs. Don't sit there and tell me that Bill O'Brien couldn't have said something or done something to have them make a move. So they never should have trusted D'Onta Foreman. They end up dumping him. But to come out of free agency in the draft with zero legitimate running back depth is an absolute atrocity. Terribly run franchise. That's what badly run franchises do. And you can always find a running back in this league. The Texans showed that today. They got Duke Johnson. There's your running back right there. But that doesn't mean that I can't be pissed, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't question this franchise because they waited until the fucking preseason to bring a running back in. Because how ready is Duke Johnson going to be by week 1 when he could have been with this team learning the playbook and learning the system from the very beginning? Or another running back just like him. Why Citizen says, what's going on with Nick Martin? He's bad. Nick Martin's not a good center. I hope he can work his way into it. I said it all last year. I talked about it all last year. He is not. I would much rather have Greg Mance, my boy Greg Mance. I would much rather have him at center than Nick Martin. Going into the offseason, I said Nick Martin needs to be gone, trade him for an asset, whatever you can, put Greg Mance at center and call it a day. Because Greg Mance is a better center. He's a better offensive lineman. He's a better leader. And also, he helps me out with fun bits that I do on the radio. So I'm a little biased there. But Nick Martin's not good. And maybe if you just had a legitimate leader at the center position, maybe that would help a lot of the problems that the offensive line has. Right? Maybe it's just about getting guys in the right spot and being a leader and calling out the defenses, knowing what coverages are going to happen. But they could have given Dwayne Brown a guaranteed contract. And yes, Greg Mance should have been starting 3 year. I don't know. Greg Mance, the Texans treat Greg Mance the way the Redskins treated Kirk Cousins. Kind of like he's in that no man's land was what I mean by that. But Greg Mance deserves to be starting. Greg Mance deserves to be the starting center for the team, but they keep treating him like he's just this, he's so versatile. He's this versatile offensive lineman, but he needs to be starting. And yeah, they could have given Dwayne Brown the guaranteed contract, but whatever. I'm not going to go back and talk about past stuff. I don't want to live in the past. I want to look to the future, which the future looks bleak, but what did they do to fix that? They didn't do anything. And that part of that was Bill O'Brien's fault, which is my larger point. Stop sitting there and trying to say that Bill O'Brien, now that he's in charge, he'll fix stuff, which I hear a lot of people saying. Bill O'Brien helped put them in this position. Bill O'Brien's the one that helped put them in a spot where they had to go out and make a trade for Duke Johnson because they didn't shore up the running back. He's the one that said, you know what, it's okay if we go into the season with Deontay Foreman as our second running back, as a guy with no track record who's coming off of an Achilles injury. It's okay for him to be our second running back. When they have, as I heard Seth Payne say this morning on 610, because I love listening to Sean and Seth. But when Seth this morning said they have an annoyingly large amount of cap space and they could have signed a guy. But don't worry, everybody. At least Clowney looks like he's going to report after the third preseason game. I've heard people on the radio calling him out for waiting until after the third preseason game to report, saying they don't understand or it's selfish. At least he's fucking reporting. Ezekiel Elliott says he's going to refuse to play at all for the Cowboys unless he has a new contract. Le'Veon Bell held out all of last year and then ended up getting traded. Khalil Mack threatened to hold out long enough to get traded to the Bears from the Raiders. At least Clowney is loyal, driven, and competitive enough to come show up this season for his teammates and for the city and for this team when they're not paying him. At least he's competitive enough to say, you know what, I'll hold out. I'll use that leverage to not play in the preseason and risk injury, but I'm going to come back because I do want to compete. I do want to play, and I want to be there for my teammates. At least he's doing that. And if they don't pay him, look, if he has a bad year and they don't pay him, I get it. I understand. But if they don't pay him after this year, I will literally challenge anyone who's okay with a second franchise tag on Jadeveon Clowney to a boxing match so I can beat the stupid out of him. A second franchise tag on Jadeveon Clowney, if he plays well this year, I'm absolutely not okay with. I don't care if it's strategic. I don't care if it's beneficial for them financially and as a franchise. At some point, you have to think about the personalities and the demeanor of a guy when he goes out and gives you his all and he just wants a new contract, and then he say, nope, franchise tag, sorry, we don't value you enough to sign you long term. Thanks for all the great things you've been doing for us. Thank you for being such an incredibly talented player, but we don't value you enough. People want to look at these players like they're these chess pieces that get moved around, which they are. From a business standpoint with this team and with these franchises, they're just little chess pieces that get moved around here and there, and this one costs a little bit more, so we'll take him off the board and we'll add this one here. But they're not. They're human beings with feelings and thoughts and loyalty and emotions. And the second you start messing with people's loyalty and questioning people and dealing with their emotions, you could get yourself in a world of trouble. So if Jadeveon Clowney's willing to come back after the third preseason game after being franchise tagged and he plays well this season, reward that. Reward the loyalty. Reward the skill. Reward one of the top defenders in the entire league. And if they go out and try to play hardball and try to play this dick-face business move bullshit, then I hope he goes somewhere else. They'll trade him away, and I hope he goes off and has a 15-sack season. Because call him out for wanting to take care of his body all you want. Call him out for wanting to look after himself all you want. But as we saw from Kiki QT tonight, yeah, injuries can happen anytime. Yeah, he could get injured working out. He could get injured lifting. And this is the excuse I hear. Well, he could get injured doing anything. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure the percentage chance of getting injured lifting weights versus the percentage chance of getting tackled or getting hit or getting driven to the ground or getting your knees cut out from under you on a terrible field, pretty sure the percentage chance of getting hurt there is much higher than just lifting weights in a weight room. So call him out for that all you want, but at least he's fucking showing up. Call him out for that all you want, but at least he's going to be there this season for his team. Like, you'll sit there, I hear these people defending all these, they defend Bill O'Brien, they defend Cal McNair. Why are you defending the big corporation that continues to feed you lines and bullshit and platitudes. And, well, yeah, he's a good guy. He's a real good guy. Got a real winning attitude. He's a real good guy. They don't answer real questions, which I get it. I understand. They're trying to control the message. But why? Why do you defend them and not the player who goes out there and risks his freaking body so you can enjoy drinking a beer and watching football? Yeah, they get paid a lot of money. That's the market for them. That's the league. So why do they deserve to get paid less than some other guy that does the exact same thing just because you don't like the fact that they get paid that much money? It's stupid, and it's frustrating. Yeah, why Citizen's great point. He's reporting. Bill O'Brien's the one that held Clowney out at the beginning of last season when he was ready to play, or during the preseason. I was there. I was holding the recorder in front of Clowney's face when we were asking him the questions, and he said he was ready to go. And we said, well, why weren't you playing in the preseason? And he said, I don't know. I was standing right in front of him whenever he said that. Talk about teams controlling the messages. But let's continue to defend the team. Let's continue to defend the coach and the GM and the organization that's been mediocre for so long, and not the talented players that are helping make this team better. The only thing good about the Texans right now are the players. The only thing that I feel comfortable right now with the Texans organization is the talent they have on both sides of the ball. Guys like Deshaun Watson, DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, if he can stay healthy, Keke Coutee, even though he got hurt tonight, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Jonathan Joseph, Justin Reed. That's the part of the Texans that I believe in. I don't believe in Bill O'Brien. I don't believe in his play calling. I don't believe in his decision making. I don't believe in his clock management. Why should I fucking believe in his general managing? Because of one move? Because he made one move for Duke Johnson and traded a 4th round pick for him? Awesome. Cool. Ooh. Like, what does that say about us as a city and a fan base that everybody's losing their minds over a Duke Johnson trade? You know what we should be saying to that? We should be saying, cool. Good move. All right. That's one more guy to help us win a championship. If the Patriots went and made a move for Duke Johnson, you know what Patriots fans would say? Good move by Bill. Good move by Bill. We didn't need him, but good move by Bill. But when the Texans and Bill O'Brien make that move, and everybody knows who to call, Cal McNair, when they make that move, oh my God, oh, what a great move. What a great move offensively. This offense is going to be so dynamic and different now. All the amazing things that Duke Johnson could bring to this offense, which I don't disagree with all that. But it says a lot that we're at the state as a fan base and as a city with this franchise that a move for Duke Johnson freaks us out. I heard people and I heard people on the radio. I saw people on social media getting almost as excited for a Duke Johnson trade as they did for Daryl Morey trading for Russell Westbrook. We've got 2 other GMs in this town, in Jeff Luhnow and Daryl Morey, that are making championship moves. Jeff Luhnow takes his balls and just plops them on the table and says, I got Zach Greinke now, bitch. Daryl Morey whips his out, puts it on the table, and says, I got Russell Westbrook. And then Bill O'Brien just ever so slightly reaches him, and there it is, little peek, and says, I got a Duke Johnson. But we act like that move for Duke Johnson was like the game-changing move for the Texans. It's a nice move. And yeah, Luke, you're so right. It seems great because so few moves are made by the Texans, but that's my point. So few good moves are made by the Texans that everybody freaks out over it. Yet we stay loyal to the coach and to the front office and to the people running the team over the players themselves. That's what I don't get. So at least, like I said, Jadeveon Clowney showing up after the 3rd preseason game. Dude, at least he's showing up. There's 1 preseason game down, 3 more to go. I'm going to do, I don't know if it's on a Sunday, I'm going to do post preseason game shows for the rest of the preseason. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do post game shows after every Texans game this year. So look forward to that. Hopefully, I won't have to travel as much. I don't think I'm going to have to travel nearly as much moving forward as I have lately. So I'll be on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock. So be ready to watch me on YouTube and Facebook. I'll share it out over Twitter, but I'm going to try to focus on just doing mostly YouTube and Facebook right now and then augment with Twitter. But I appreciate you guys joining. Follow me at Josh Beard Radio on Twitter and Facebook.com/Josh Beard Radio. Find me, Josh Beard, on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share it out. Share it out to everybody because we have a problem in this town, and I used to be a part of it, and I didn't realize that I was a part of it, but we have a problem in this town with perpetuating storylines about a team that doesn't deserve it. And guys in the media business that actually call them out, like my buddy Adam Clanton, that call them out for their bad moves, they get roasted over the coals, but they don't deserve it. Because until the Texans prove, yeah, thank you, wise citizens, Bill O'Brien is just another Marvin Lewis. He is. That's his best case scenario. Like if people want to say that my ceiling as a radio guy, like my ceiling, I hit my peak, and my peak was part-time, nighttime host. I'm technically, I guess that's what Bill O'Brien's the equivalent of that as NFL head coaches. He's the Marvin Lewis. That's his ceiling. Think about that. Bill O'Brien's ceiling is Marvin Lewis, not Bill Belichick. People want to act like he's Bill Belichick. He's not, and he's never gonna be. Am I the Bill O'Brien of sports talk radio hosts? Oh, shit. Anyway, I appreciate you guys joining. I'm going to be back on Tuesday at 9 o'clock. I might do something this week, and I'm thinking about doing a thing. Let me know what you guys think, but I'm thinking about doing a thing on the weekends where I just play video games, because I play video games all the damn time. And so I might stream some video games and just talk sports and really just kind of play games. And if anybody comes on and has a question about sports or wants to talk about a certain topic, I'm going to start talking about it. So I'm going to experiment with that a little bit this weekend. So look out for that and join me. I'll do that on Twitch and on YouTube. So I'm going to call it Sports and Games because I'm super original and come up with awesome names. Right, guys? But yeah, follow me on everything. Share this out. Get people to like and subscribe to it so we can kind of grow this thing and keep building it from the ground. So we can talk about the Texans the way they need to be talked about. And we can talk about the teams in this city the way they need to be.